So hi, it's Russell Quirk from Propaganda PR. Welcome to this video interview. Me and my friend Matt Fetick here, who I will introduce in a second. The context of this this conversation across the pond, so to speak, is that OpenBrix, as some of you may have seen, has announced their pre-launch as a property portal with quite a difference, or I should say differences. And you may have seen that in addition to the way that OpenBrix are going to price, which is kind of fair and transparent, which some of you might find unusual given the usual kind of protestations insofar as how portals price, and the fact that OpenBrix will also pay 100% referral fees, the fact that the platform is democratized around blockchain, which means, of course, that the big decisions that they will make with agents will indeed be made with agents. But the very significant thing that I want to talk about today with Matt here is the MLS. Now, before you all roll your eyes and click the red cross in the top of your screen and say, no, MLS, that's a US thing, it's not for us. The point of this conversation over the next few minutes with this very prominent individual here is to talk to you as UK agents about what the MLS is in the US, how it works, why we think it will work in the UK, and hence OpenBrix are pioneering it. And I think above all for agents and agencies watching this, what it means in financial terms. So over to my special guest, Matt Fetick. Matt, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
How you doing? And where are you? Philadelphia, right?
In the Philadelphia suburbs, just kind of sandwiched in between New York and Washington, D.C.
Fantastic. Okay, so Matt, tell us a bit about yourself, because you're no ordinary agent. You're not just an agent. Obviously, you're a veteran of the US property market, but just give us a bit of an intro to yourself, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. I'll tell you the Russell. I'm still an agent at heart. I have a real estate sales team of folks that sell with me under my leads that I generate. So I work every day as an agent. I'm going on an instruction appointment this evening, so I still have my hands in that business every day. My sales team here, based in the Philadelphia suburbs, sells between 350 and 400 homes per year. That's my little sales group, and we're associated with Keller Williams Real Estate here in the States. I also own 2 Keller Williams offices in Delaware and Maryland, one in Delaware and one in Maryland. And this year, we expect to sell in those offices about $2 billion worth of property. That $2 billion will equate to about 5,000 transactions between our 2 little offices there. And then I also am partners in 2 of the ventures in the UK for Keller Williams. So I've spent a lot of time in the UK over the last 5 years. I've gotten to know some fantastic agents, people I really like and respect. I think I've got a good grasp on how the industry operates on a day-to-day basis and the difference between the 2.
Good. Okay, which is what we're going to talk about, because one of the big differences, as you allude to, is the fact that we don't do MLS, and you guys really do. So can you explain, for the benefit of the agents that are going to watch this, what is the MLS? What is it?
So the MLS is ultimately, it stands for Multiple Listing Service, and it ultimately is a contract and a portal between agents to share instructions, right? So agent A takes an instruction, but agrees to split fees with another agent who brings a ready, willing, and able buyer to the table. So it's on the premise that the instructed agent will in fact split fees with a potential, with another agent for that property. So it's really just an agreement. So if you sign up, you're automatically agreeing. Now in the States, we have a 100% requirement rate. If you are a member of the MLS, 100% of your instructions must go in within 48 hours of being instructed.
So they have to go pretty quickly, right? So you don't hold them back for a few weeks to try and sell them yourself. They get automatically shared quickly.
That's right. So we believe that the consumer benefits the most when all ready, willing, and able buyers have an opportunity to come and see that property and make an offer, right? So when it's not just my firm's book of potential buyers, but it's everybody's firm of book of potential buyers, that the consumer will win when they have the most amount of eligible buyers can see their property.
Got it. And so how prevalent is it amongst agents? So, out of every 1,000 agents, how many of them are on the MLS using it and therefore adhering to that approach?
950, right? I don't know anybody that opts out.
Okay. And what would the agency as the advantage? So, and I know this is obvious to you, but to the UK agents watching this, the advantage obviously is reach. And I guess maybe I'll term it in a different way. What's the disadvantage then to the 50 out of those 1,000 agents that choose not to be on the MLS?
Well, for the agents that choose not to participate, and again, I don't know any, right? So there are some that maybe have different models where they're really working more with within just a lettings business, so they don't participate in the MLS, or they may work for a new home builder and they don't put those out on the MLS because they're not sharing with new builds. But any residential resale agent is definitely going to participate. They would struggle to have a viable business, without participating in the multiple list.
Got it. Okay. So what would you say is the proportion of homes that sell in the US? Bearing in mind your market is about 6, 7, maybe 8 times bigger than the UK. So you're transacting across the States, what, 7, 8 million transactions a year, something like that?
Oh yeah, at least.
Yes.
This year, I expected a significant jump, but yes, at least it's that number.
So what proportion do you think are subject to the MLS process?
98%.
98%. So the vast majority. So it's cultural, right? In the US, it's the thing that everybody just does.
Yeah. So one of the things to keep in mind, right, is we think that as agents, we win when the consumer wins, right? So our mindset first is consumer first and then agent. And so if you hold back a listing, right, the perception is if you hold back a listing to just sell it yourself, then the only person that benefits is you, not the consumer. So when we benefit the consumer, the agent ultimately benefits because they build long-standing relationships with their clients feel well represented, and they come back as repeat business over and over and over again. Right? So in my sales business, so the business that I directly sell for, so not my company that I own, but my sales book, this year I would expect out of our 375 deals in that book to be 80% will be past client referral, meaning we sold the Smith's home and they refer the Joneses to us. Right? So it is word of mouth referral over and over and over again. So the benefit is when the consumer is first, the agent benefits by loyalty, building a long-term book of sales business, building a book of raving fans that just recommend and refer you.
Got it. And so we have a stat that I'll throw at you, which is that 60% of properties that sell in the UK sell by the second agent. So in other words, the first agent in the main doesn't sell the majority of the properties he lists. So he spends lots and lots of time and effort and money listing homes and so on. The MLS surely is a solution to that, right? Because if you're listing as an agent and you're not just keeping your listing here like this, and you're opening it up to the market, it must therefore have a higher propensity to sell. And I guess the argument is, and again, I'm going to be devil's advocate on our own video here, but just because there will be people shouting at the screen saying, yeah, but for those that I sell, I want to keep all the commission. Well, my argument would be, well, okay, look, you're going to give some of the commission away, which you might not have otherwise given away, or maybe the 30 or 40% that you were going to sell. But look at the commission that you actually earn on the 60% that was just dead money that you were just going to throw away. I mean, does that make sense?
It does. So keep in mind, I would say our fall through rate on a listing taken, so on a new instruction, might be less than 10%. That we don't finally get to closing, right? So it's going to be a little bit less than 10%.
So a 10% fail rate, effectively.
Yes.
As opposed to ours, which could be 60%.
Yeah, it's probably 10%. And the reason I think, part of that is it's not just instructed by me and then my book of buyers. All agents have access to sell that property, and then I have all access to sell theirs. So one of my frustrations, Russell, when I came to the UK, and what got me excited to be a part of the property industry in the UK, was that I was looking at potentially buying a property, and my only option as somebody moving to London or buying a second home in London was to call multiple agents, right? So I had to call this agent here and that agent there, and this one was available here, but not at this time, and the other was available. And trying to put a tour together to see multiple properties was very, very difficult and confusing and frustrating, right? I would like to be able to go to one agent and say, here's what I can afford, here's where I want to be, and let them be able to stick with me. So if you think that you're losing some money by sharing your fee on your instructions, you're gaining it by bringing the buyer on the other side. So it's going to be a wash. I mean, there's no doubt that you'll wash it that way. And here's the other side, right? If I get instructed by the Smiths to sell their home, I also want to help them purchase their next home.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to worry about, well, I've got to call somebody at Knight Frank and then Sotheby's in here to find what I want. I want to be able to service them completely. So I take the instruction, I sell it. I then am looking at what they want to buy. And then I'm able to go out and talk to all of my colleagues, all of my agents in that area, and look for the property that they want and then bring it. So what if if Knight Frank brings a buyer to my instruction, and then I bring that buyer to their instruction, it's all going to wash. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And then you don't have this failed rate on your new instructions.
And the customer gets served better, because you're not opening the door to your office and saying, goodbye, Mr. Seller, and not thinking about the buy side.
And especially when you have a chain, right? Because if you have a chain and you're relying on other agents who are doing different things, if I'm in a chain transaction, I want to know and control the entire chain and be a part of it. I don't want to have to, well, did that agent do what they're supposed to do? Where are we in the process? If I'm representing the seller to get out and get their proceeds to their purchase, I then am part of the entire chain and not just one link of it.
And here, as you know, but on the buy side, you can count the number of buying agencies in the UK probably on one hand. I mean, literally on one hand. And independent, corporate, big, small estate agents here are 99% focused on the sell side, on the listing and selling that property. Yeah. There is almost no regard whatsoever for earning a fee or even trying to earn a fee out of the person that's either selling through you or indeed a failed viewing. I was saying to you just before we press record here, I did a viewing myself today on a property, and it turns out that particular house is not for that buy. Just, it wasn't for him for whatever reason. But he sold his own property. He's got £2 million to spend, and he gave me a big list of criteria. And honestly, the first thing I did when I got back, I thought, well, I know there's some off-market stuff that will suit him. I've already said to him, look, can I have a 1% fee if I find you the right thing and do the negotiation and look after you? And he went, yeah, sure. It's a 20 grand gig, but that never happens here, Matt. It never happens.
But people will pay for service, right? So people want ease and service, and if you can provide it. The other side is where I think people worry about is, well, gosh, if I'm already down to a 1% fee or 1.5%, I don't want to, the margins are too slim to give it up. Number one, I do think you'll make it up on the volume of transactions you can do if you can share. But on the other side is, I'm pretty convinced that you can get more money for a property and more than make up if you wanted to get to a 2.5%, maybe even a 3% fee. Because if you open up that property to every available buyer and every available agent, you're going to push the price up to the max in the market. So as you push the price up, and you say to the seller, look, I want 1.5%, and I can get you £300,000 for your property from my book. But if you push it out to everybody's potential buyer, and say, well, but if I get you 325, I want 2.5% so I can fee split. The seller, your vendor, gets to make more money on the transaction because when there's more buyer, we know. I mean, statistically, if there's 50 available buyers for that house or 200 available buyers for that property, the price is going to go up.
Of course.
So the more people that we offer it to, the value will go up. So you'll more than pay for a slight increase in fees if you wanted to in order to split them.
Yeah, so look, creating buyer competition. And so that was going to be my next question. And it's a silly question because it's an obvious answer. But if you were an agent that was a master of MLS or an agent that actually used the MLS, does that give you an edge both in terms of fee, so to your point, being able to charge more because you're opening up the market for that seller, but also it must give you a conversion edge in terms of your ability to convert a market appraisal, a valuation, because you're saying to that particular seller, look, you don't have to choose an agent really. You choose the agent that you like as an individual, but but you don't have to worry about the marketing side because the MLS opens that up to you via me. So, so you get a better fee and potentially a higher propensity to convert your MAs into listings.
I cannot believe that the average vendor wants to either multi-instruct and deal with multiple agents calling and either showing the property or providing offers. I can't believe that the average consumer wants to instruct multiple agents to sell the property. Instead, instruct one who will manage all the others, right? And be their voice of reason. So it's generally, if we could focus on the customer service aspect. So take our own personal need to make money out for 1 second, right? We're in this to make money, but put it off to the side and say, what's in the best interest of the consumer? When the consumer wins, the agent wins. You'll pick it up in volume, pick it up in referrals, you'll pick it up in lifelong clients. I have clients that I have sold 5, 6, 7, 8 homes to, their kids, their grandkids, and stuff, because they look at me and say, we would never consider buying property or selling property without bringing you on.
Yeah, and that's another thing that doesn't happen here, which I think the MLS would promote. Is if you're looking after a seller and you look after them on the buy side, you've got kind of almost twice the opportunity to build a relationship so that you get referrals. And I might be criticised for saying this. I'm often criticised for saying things, Matt, in the UK trade press. But the fact remains, again, the percentage of agents, whether it be branch managers, listers or negotiators, that ask for and successfully get a referral at the end of a transaction it's literally, you can count the percentage on one hand. It's not a thing here, but can you imagine if it was?
One of the things that I train my agents to say at an instruction appointment, so you're out doing the valuation and they're going to sign the instruction paperwork, and I'll show you, I've got it right in my marketing, that so we would say to the vendor, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, our goal is to make this transaction so smooth and exceed your expectations that before you actually complete on this transaction, you will feel, you will be excited to provide us with a referral of a friend or a family member. And if you don't do that by the time we complete, I will have considered the service I provided you to have been substandard.
Yeah, but so to you, it's automatic. It's a given. Again, it's cultural. Again, it isn't here. And I genuinely think that the MLS, as you say, rather than just thinking about the income benefit in terms of the short term, building the relationship, providing more service to the client, whether it's buy side and sell side, whatever, absolutely endears you to them so that they do refer, so that they do come back. And it's something that UK agents really need to get their heads round. That the benefit, this is a people business. We say this at Keller Williams. This is a relationship business, not a transactional business. When you get that, when you understand it, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, you're earning big 6 figures when you really understand that. UK agents just don't. So my next question, Matt, then I suppose is, why hasn't MLS been introduced and worked in the UK? Why do you think?
So, my experience, Russell, is I've met a lot of agents, right? Because as we've tried to get some traction over the years, I've sat down and had coffee and tea and lunch and dinner with lots of agents in the UK. What I found is most of them, the vast majority, are really nice men and women. They truly do know their market. They know the product that's available. They know their homes that are available in their patch. And they're very smart and hardworking people. However, they do miss out on this idea of customer first and the customer service angle, right? So they're really good practitioners on property sales, but they're missing out how much easier their life would be if they would walk in and the Smiths would call them tomorrow morning and say, my grandparents are selling a property and they want to meet you tomorrow. The referral is so much easier than having to cold call or prospect or drop leaflets and market to a patch, right? And the other thing is when I go out on an instruction appointment that came from a referral, because the trust is between the referring party and the person I'm going to see, I walk in with the edge immediately, right? So if the grandparents say, you got to use Matt, right? I'm doing one right now. I sold the grandparents a house, the parents a house. I'm now selling their 30-year-old son a house. And he's got friends that are agents, right? And he said when I picked him up the other day to go view some property, he was like, Matt, my grandmother said, I've got to use you, right? It's the easiest way to build your business. Or I could have spent 3 hours on the phone calling 300 prospective sellers or buyers to get them on the phone to hopefully get an appointment. Instead, grandma teed this up for me. I picked him up, and he's not going to work because grandma said he got to use me, right? So grandma's endorsement's better than any leaflet I can drop.
Yeah.
So we focus on that.
If OpenBrix are successful, as I think they're going to be in rolling out MLS as part of their portal proposition, what can you hazard a guess? What you think that the average UK estate agency business is? Let's say it's banking 250,000 GCI, so gross commission on an annual basis. What do you think, honestly, that business could achieve off the back of it being a supporter of an MLS? What difference would it make in financial terms?
Well, it's certainly going to go up, right? I don't know if we can estimate that it's going to double, but we can certainly estimate that, today, if I've got 18 instructions and that's my biggest pool of inventory to sell, or tomorrow I'm a member of MLS and I've got access to 2,000 instructions to sell, which one allows me more opportunity, right? So it's about, so the consumer wins on the exposure to the property. The agent wins by having access to a bigger book of property to sell. And the more property I have to sell, the better chance I have of increasing my income, right? And that doesn't change, right? Just because in America we use a thing called the MLS doesn't mean that all of a sudden that you take it across the pond and now the difference between having access to 18 properties to sell and 2,000 properties to sell doesn't equate to an increase in income. Of course it does. The fact that you don't call it's not an American. Americans have we don't have the market on knowledge. I mean, right? This is not an American product, right?
Yeah. And you don't have the monopoly on that.
2,000. Which one's going to help me make more money?
Yeah, and it's not having the monopoly on it. So a lot of people say it's an American thing, therefore it won't work here. But there's no resistance from the consumer in terms of having something that operates differently. If the industry got behind this and understood this and supported it and advanced it, when you explain it to your buyers and to your sellers, they're going to embrace it. So the only resistance is not the public accepting it. The resistance is the industry not understanding it here and not wanting to roll it out because either they don't understand it or because they think that in the short term they're going to lose a little bit. Interestingly, Matt, the OpenBrix approach to MLS, and I don't know if you'll agree with this or not actually, is going to be that they will allow each agent to decide who the instruction MLS is to and what the fee split is on a bespoke individual basis. So it doesn't have to go live on the MLS after 48 or within 48 hours as it does, as you described earlier. So you can decide, right, I want it to go to either my own network. So if you're a Keller Williams network, you can just MLS within Keller Williams or EXP or OpenBrix, whoever it might be. And you can also decide, you could do it geographically, so it only goes to agents in a certain area. You can exclude certain agents if you've got a competitor that you particularly don't like. But you can also decide when it multi-lists. So whether it's 24 hours, whether it's a week, whether it's a month. So I guess I take your point from earlier on in terms of, look, open this up and, it's better for everybody if it's opened up at the earliest opportunity. But I guess the reason I mention this is that for those agents that are worried about the fact that they might lose some of the commission on their prime listings that they were going to sell within 24 hours, actually here in the UK, via the OpenBrix model, they'll have the opportunity and the choice as to when they MLS. Yeah.
So my thoughts on that, Russell, again, this is just Matt Fetick speaking, is I would put a time, if I were in a leadership role with folks at OpenBrix and on the board there, I would say, you have an X amount of time before you have to put every instruction in. You can have a window of time because, again, I think the only thing in selling it internally helps the agent, not the consumer. And so if we're going to say that we believe that the consumer benefits from the MLS, then I would say that, look, you can have 1 week to sell it on your own, and then it's got to go in. Because what will happen is, Russell, is the only instructions that are going to go in are the tough instructions to sell, kind of like long runs, right? It's going to be this, well, I can't sell it, so let's see if anybody else can sell it. Well, instead, I would rather us as colleagues come together and say, let's expose the property to the most amount of buyers. That'll help the consumer. When the consumers help, they become better clients and more appreciative clients. We can probably increase our fees, again, not astronomical, but to make this work. Russell, I'm telling you, put me up against any experienced agent on an instruction appointment. Let me go out with my customer service focused appointment presentation along with the commitment to use an MLS and open it up to everybody, right? And let them compete against a traditional agent that wants to keep it all for themselves in there. And you tell me who the consumer is going to choose. I'm telling you, put me up against anybody. I will get on the next plane. I will fly over and we can do a challenge and set me and somebody else up and send us on 10 instructions. And I guarantee you, if I say to the consumer, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm so appreciative of your time. My goal is to win you over, to have the best experience in selling your property as possible. One of the tools I offer is to be the only agent you have to instruct. You don't have to multi-instruct. I'll manage all that for you. And now, today, instead of getting my Rolodex or my book of buyers of 300 prospective buyers, I'm going to put it out there to all of my colleagues in all brands. Now we're going to access 2,000 buyers for your home. I'm going to allow any property agent to come in and show it. I'm going to split my fee with them, and that's going to cost you 2.25% in your fees, and I'll do all the work, your only point of contact. And by the way, when we get this done, I'm going to go find the best deal for you and get you a screaming deal on your next property. Who's winning that instruction? Come on.
Yeah, clearly you. I mean, look, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? And the edge it provides the agent, and would do here in the UK, is significant. So look, I think that we can conclude by saying that if this is done properly in the UK, if agents get behind it, and there will only be the kind of the thin end of the wedge that embraces this initially, but if they do, there's no way that this does not benefit the consumer and therefore the agent. I mean, 100%. There is absolutely no doubt. So look, it's going to be fascinating to see how this rolls out, because I'm really behind it. I think at the moment, particularly where the market is on fire, we know it is right now, but that's not going to last forever. I mean, probably in the UK, because the stamp duty holiday expiring on March the 31st, it's probably going to last till, well, March the 31st. So agents need to be thinking very, very keenly about what happens for the rest of 2021. How are you going to bolster transactions? How are you going to bolster your revenue? How are you going to make sure that, you know, you don't spend all the money over the next 6 months, and then during April, May, June, July, August 2021, you're sunk, you know? And I again think that the MLS is another opportunity to increase income and make your business more sustainable.
I fully agree, and I hope the one thing that would happen is that members, and any agent that joins OpenBrix would sign on to some type of code of ethics of the way you share your fees, the way you access property together cordially, that you never speak poorly about another agent, right? There needs to be, if you're going to share your inventory, you're going to have a code of ethics about how you work together.
Yeah.
And again, that'll raise the bar in the professionalism of the agent when we all have common core values and commitments to working together, and then share our inventory. It raises the bar of professionalism. It will raise the income for the professional agent, and the consumer will greatly benefit in the process.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to be yet another import from the US that's going to work really, really well in the UK. And it really is amazing that it hasn't worked yet. It hasn't really been tried. It's not that it hasn't worked. It's just that it's never really been tried, frankly. So fantastic. Well, look, Matt, thank you very, very much for taking your time this afternoon. I know you're a very, very busy guy. Look, very, very grateful. I'm just going to sign off, Matt, if I may, and then I'll stop the recording, but then we'll have a quick chat at the end. Just to say that the OpenBrix are courting agents pre-registration. So if you want to find out more about what OpenBrix are doing, and of course it's not just the excitement of the MLS, it's a whole bunch of other things that they're layering on insofar as their proposition too. So go to openbrix.co.uk, pre-register, and start talking to the guys about the exciting stuff they're doing. It's definitely not just another portal, that's for sure. So, right, Matt, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks.